And we, ladies and gentlemen, are live. WeatherBrains episode number 467 for the 5th of January, 2015. First show of the new year. And we are going to be live. We are going live to Phoenix, Arizona for tonight's show. I love these remote shows. And I want you to know that Dr. John and Bill both were paid $1,000 apiece by AccuWeather to wear those lanyards.
That's right.
Those are nice lanyards, though. They're very nice. I mean, they look good on you guys.
Yeah, we're promoting their new MinuteCast product.
It was a delightful 73 degrees here today, Bill.
Was it really?
Yeah, why are we going to go back?
Exactly. It's going to be an ice storm at home on Sunday, so I think I'll just stay.
A what?
You didn't get the memo, James.
Oh, brother.
For the next convention, I suggest the WeatherBrains propeller beanie.
That would stand out if nothing else. You'd immediately recognize our people in the show there.
That's right.
That's probably worth it.
So, for those that are just watching, this is the pre-show. This is not the official show. We'll kick that off in about 8 minutes.
Do I get to say hi again?
Here's your buddy Tanya Francine, James.
Hi, James.
Tanya, how are you? Are you keeping these guys under control?
All right, talk again, James.
Are our gentlemen behaving? Our two friends there, Dr. John and Bill, are they behaving?
Absolutely Southern gentlemen.
Southern gentlemen?
Southern gentlemen. Remember, I'm in Montana.
So John lives in Pennsylvania. Is he a Southerner too?
Are you Southern Pennsylvania?
Southern Pennsylvania.
I lived in Atlanta for a while. Does that count?
Maybe Bill's rubbing off on him.
Oh, he is a Southern guy.
No, that's right. John lives in Atlanta.
I lived in Atlanta. Not really the South, cosmopolitan.
Oh, this is good now. I can control between this camera, which is the tight shot, and this camera, which is the wide shot. I feel like a director here. This is good.
Oh, very nice. Rick is controlling.
Yeah, this is coming off Rick's. Rick must have a phone or an iPad or something working.
Exactly right. He's got it going.
He's going mobile.
Yep. Until the battery dies.
So did you guys figure out a format for tonight?
You are the format.
I'm the format. Okay.
The first person who came up as the guest.
That's right.
There goes the grape. Somebody knows.
I lost a few.
5 second rule.
Oh, brother.
Oops. I just pulled my piece
We'll get rid of them. Here. Hang
There
on.
we go. We make this up as we go.
All right, I'm going to go eat around the corner.
And for those of you that are watching for the first time, I promise we typically don't have this type of stuff going on here. This is a unique program because most of our crew is live in Arizona, but this is typically the time where we share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and we try and work out the technical flaws that never seem to be worked out. We're going to be missing a lot of people tonight, I think. I think Nate Johnson is not in. I think Aubrey or Banowitz is not in. Brian Peters, I think, is not in. So basically it's going to be our crew in Arizona carrying the show tonight. I like that. This is great. I mean, it doesn't get any better, though. I'm watching Rick's live shot here. He's walking through the mixer. What is this? Is this the mixer?
This is a reception at the Arizona
like
Science Center, James. We're not
This
quite
is
sure.
great. I mean,
I think it's Arizona State's deal.
This is just a whole lot better than regular television. I mean, I like to sit here and watch Rick's camera and see if I see anybody I know in there.
There is great entertainment value here.
Yeah, he's going to be in charge of rounding up guests for us. And we have actually a live email, James.
We have
Cameron
a live
Venable,
email.
He wrote us this week, or about 10 days ago. He's here live, going to ask his question in person.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
Say hello to him, Cameron.
Come around behind us. There you go. There's Cameron.
Hello, James.
James, this is Cameron.
Cameron, how are you, sir? Good evening. Yeah, well, watch out for the earwax cooties in that thing.
We're sharing earbuds. It's not very sanitary.
No, it's not. No. Cameron, where do you go to school?
San Jose State.
Fantastic. Well, you are two fine men that have deep, dark connections within this science.
Well, that's wonderful. That's what I like to hear.
It's all about knowing the right people, and you got the two most powerful men in the whole conference right there.
Oh, man. That's quite a reputation you guys got there.
I need my shovel, you know, it's getting off.
Getting neat, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've lost Rick.
Yeah, you ran Rick off, then.
Yeah. Up.
Now, this is I love having Rick's camera where he's just roaming. This is good stuff. I mean,
roaming around.
We should have a hidden
He can't
camera.
go too far because he's using the MiFi, so he can't get too far away.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, he's back. All right, there's Rick's camera. And again, this is just video only. For those of you that are
We're still good.
watching, our audio show's not going to start here for about 4 minutes.
Oh, where did he go? Oh,
He's standing right
We're basically playing around here is all we're doing.
That'd be perfect.
Kevin Kevin, you and I are on the job. We're working hard.
I defy Marshall Shepard and the Weather Geeks program to provide this kind of material. Just
No, there's no way on Weather Geeks you're going to have a live camera roaming through the exhibition hall spying on people.
No, in fact, that Weather Geeks program is just predictable. You're going to see him in the studio, and that's it. And so there's nothing. There's no danger there.
Be nice, John is on it tomorrow, so we might get bipped off of it if you keep talking.
Did you know that Bill Gale and I are going to be on Weather Geeks tomorrow?
That's awesome.
You're going to have a little danger.
Yeah.
So do they have a portable green room out there with the hairstylists and the makeup people?
John doesn't need a hairstylist.
Yeah. John has the hair of an angel.
Yeah.
Hair of an angel, all right.
Exactly. We just let Bill Gale get away from us.
Oh, he's right. Oh, he's drifting.
Well, I think we got a lot of people watching this. Goodness, I just looked down there and saw the numbers are rather high this evening. So,
Well, I hope we say something good.
Have you heard of the program?
Yeah, they're showing it in the
Yes, I
IMAX.
have. We're actually on the air live over here. We'd love to have you on for just a minute, just to say hi and broadcasting live from the AMS. Okay.
Session.
Okay.
So you're out here somewhere.
We're right over there at that desk.
The rest of the meeting too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be around
so
through the
if I
week.
see here, we can catch you some other
We'll be over here for about another hour or so.
When we get done here, I'll come back out.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So what's that trick that refresh deal where you hit the option refresh to get the cache cleared out? So somebody taught me that on the
Gale's
last
gonna try and
show.
come back by. He's tied up doing a walkthrough or something. So.
I'll probably never remember how to do that. It was something.
That's the chat room. Chat room knows.
They do. I mean, it is, ladies and gentlemen, control refresh. We'll see if I can make this thing fly. Yes.
If it's okay with you, we'll probably end over here about 8:30 Mountain Time, so about 9:30 your time. Is that okay?
Sure.
Since you don't have an email officer or any of the other accoutrements, we brought you your email.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
You can actually give your email live.
There you go.
So be ready to play the jingle.
What we're going to do, guys, we're just going to get this thing started, and I'm going to let y'all just kind of pick it up, and I'll be the director. And this is, I love this roaming camera. This I could just sit here and watch this all day. I mean, this that shows you that I really need to get a life. So what is that sign? Look at the sign.
Leo?
Yeah, he shaved his head. What's the deal there?
It was. I guess they were doing some fundraising on the New Year's thing. I just looked at it. He looks pretty silly.
Yeah, really. I mean, he's in my club now.
Oh, I'm not sure I could ever do that. It's like Samson, you know. I lose to my power.
We'd raise a lot of money to shave off that hair, though, John.
Yeah, no, I'm pitching in 300. So I bet you if we can get it up to 1,000, 2,000, maybe John would shave his hair. I don't know.
I might do it for that.
The right chair, John.
I have to figure that one out, but maybe there's a number.
Yeah.
I think it'll grow back. It'll grow back, so I'm not that concerned.
So we're on cable television. Hello to all of our friends watching on in Alabama on the television side. And whenever I see the TV thing up, I know it's time to get this show started. So here we go. We are starting this very program. As soon as I get the recorders going here, we're going to record track 1, which is me. We're going to record track 2, which is the Google Hangout. And here we go. And hey, Bill, can you mute yours for just a minute while we do the intro with?
Yeah, I had just done that, James. I'll mute it again.
Okay. And I'm going to mute Rick real quick. There we go. All right, now we're silent. Here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains! Hey, it's the weekly show all about weather. This is WeatherBrains episode number 467. We are into a new year, 2015. This is for the 5th of January. And we got a special program tonight. I'm always excited when we get the guys out live at these big shows, but we do have one of our associates in studio in his normal position with me, and that's Kevin Silly in cold, frigid Wichita Falls, Texas. How cold is it?
It's so cold, it was in the low 20s this morning with a wind chill in the teens, and yeah, this is it was quite a bit colder here than Dallas. We're only 2 hours away.
So how did you fare during that big thing that lifted out of the southwest last week and over the weekend?
We did okay. It was, in the city, Wichita Falls, it was primarily rain. One of those mornings we had quite a bit of ice just to the southeast of town. Around Bellevue, there were a number of accidents on 287, and there was some wintry stuff. It was a surprise just before New Year's Day. I wasn't here, but we had that first thing that came through. Boy, that thing dropped a couple of inches of snow unexpectedly. I thought at most there would be a trace to a dusting, and we got a couple of inches in a few spots. So I sat up that night. It was a Friday night, and I watched the HRRR and everything just was weakening as it came out of the panhandle. And I had to come in Saturday morning to do the Today Show cut-ins, and I got up early and I watched, and it was weaken, and it just never weakened. It was a huge model bust and personal bust.
Hey, welcome to my world, pal. We've all been there before.
Yeah.
So how did you handle that? Did you do like cut-ins, or did you go on the air at all? I mean, how do you handle a 2-inch snow in Wichita Falls?
Well, it was Saturday morning, and so we had Today Show cut-ins, and then the morning guy came in because that day, coincidentally, I had to get my in-laws back to Dallas-Fort Worth to catch their plane. It's very difficult to get a plane here to Wichita Falls. You can come, but if you're connecting from somewhere, it's very hard. So they flew in and out of Dallas, so I took off, and by the time we got down there, it was pretty much done.
All right. Well, cool. We'll.
I got an interesting story for you though on one of your favorite topics from this morning though, James. You have a second?
Go.
All right. So your favorite topic is of course sirens, right?
Yes.
So I was out working in the yard this morning. The previous owners of our home that we bought left us this gigantic play area / swing set thing that we have no use for. So I'm in the middle of taking it down. And so I was working this morning, and in Wichita Falls, they test the tornado sirens once a month. I think it's the first Monday of each month. And so they went off, and I could hear several different ones from my house, which was good. But as soon as they came on, it struck me. I thought, boy, that's a really different sounding tornado siren than we had in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And a few minutes later, Tracy came out, and I said, did you hear that? And she said, yes. And both of us, without consulting, thought that the tornado sirens here, and it's a very weather-sensitive town. I mean, way back to the 1979 tornado that just decimated the city. Yep. But the tornado sirens sound like howling wind.
What?
Isn't that fascinating?
Like,
and Tracy, well, there's kind of a whoo sound to it, right? But it's the kind of thing that you would hear during any thunderstorm outbreak when the wind is really howling. So both our questions were, well, how does that differentiate from regular howling wind that you would hear. And she was inside. She said, I asked her about it. She said, yeah, I was inside. She said, I heard the sound, and she looked out the window, and she said to Matthew, she said, boy, it really doesn't look that windy, but listen to the winds howling, because she was so convinced it was just the wind. Isn't that fascinating?
What's the story behind that? Is this some consultant decided that reaches more people, or what?
I don't know. I'm still meeting people around here. In the next week or two, I'm meeting with the Wichita County, one of the emergency management folks. He's invited me to a function, and so I'm going to chat with him about that and see what I can learn. But they're obvious. I've seen them around, the sirens, and they're different than most of the ones I saw in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So there's obviously different manufacturers around, but that particular noise was really, really interesting to me. I thought you would be interested in hearing that.
Next time, get your phone, audio app and record it, and we'll play it back. It could be.
That's a good idea. I'll do that. Yeah, they do it once a month, and I will do that, and hopefully by then I'll have talked to somebody about it.
All right, cool. Well, we're gonna go right to the core of the show tonight. Basically, the show tonight's going to originate from Phoenix. The American Meteorological Society's annual meeting is underway. And we've got the bulk of our crew out here. And this is great. I got a 2-camera shot. For those that are watching on the video side, got a 2-camera angle going on here. We've got Rick Smith on camera 1, and we've got Bill and the gang on camera 2. So we got the wide shot, and we got the tight shot. This is going to be good. So you guys unmute, take it away. The floor belongs to our crew at the AMS annual meeting.
Well, James, it's great to be here. Of course, this is the 95th annual meeting of the AMS. So it's quite an event. John, how many people are here, you think? 3,000?
My guess would be 3,000, maybe. Yeah. About 3,000.
And so some really famous luminaries of the field are here. Just a lot of excitement, a lot of good talks today. Things that are coming out of all of these things that we really started in Birmingham to a great degree.
That's very true.
Societal impacts, behavioral impacts, things that are now the Weather Service is taking notice. Someone tweeted today, there was a comment in one of the sessions, about the Weather Service is good at polishing rocks instead of finding gems. Yeah. And I think they're now starting to mine some gems.
Oh, I think so. There's a concerted effort to bring in behavioral scientists whenever there's a discussion about watches and warnings and getting the proper information out there and have it received and acted upon. And it was amazing how many social scientists were participating in panel discussions. It's becoming the average deal now.
Yeah, so there are some really exciting things going on. Lance Rothfuss with his Facets program. There's a new thing about warning simplification that Eli Jacks is greatly involved in, and Jen Sprague.
Right.
And some really good things are coming out of that. So I think we're going to be amazed at what we see over the next few years. Of course, the Weather Service doesn't move very quickly. These things take time. You have to do them correctly. And so it'll be interesting to see how that
You got
unfolds.
a sense there's a groundswell.
Definitely.
I think there's a consensus of opinion that this is the direction we need to go in as a discipline. And there are a lot of people behind this move. But as Bill said, it may take a little time. But one of the points that was brought up today was let's not wait to kind of get all of this on board. Let's find something that we can get on board now with and then build upon that.
Well, I think you're going to continue to see, I see a common theme going through a lot of the discussions that these media alerts from the European Union are really getting a lot of attention here. A simplification that's based on impacts and likelihood and using, really just 4 colors.
Right, looking at a color scale that's easily understood. It's gradational from yellow to red.
Yes.
Right, and Pat Boyle spoke at the National Weather Association back in October. She's making the rounds.
Yes, she is.
She's making a decided input here.
So it's going to be very interesting to see that happen. So, James, we thought we'd turn the show upside down tonight because, we've got Dr. Scala's got to hit karaoke by 9:30.
Oh,
so,
right.
We thought we'd start with the email subject, or the email, or at least the inbox. So,
right.
Can you roll the jingle for us, James?
Yeah, let's go ahead. So since Aubrey is not on the show, we're going to do email live tonight. This is going to be good.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
There you go.
Yeah, tonight we've got Cameron Venable, who wrote the panel at WeatherBrains just a week ago, asking about opportunities for college students, and he is with us tonight from Santa State University, and it's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
So ask your question, Cameron.
Oh, I was just wondering the future of meteorology. As most of us know, it's becoming very competitive, and a lot of people were saying you need a master's degree, and I was just wondering how true that is. Because honestly, I'm kind of sick of school, and I would just kind of want to get a job in either the Weather Service or a forecasting agency.
So, John, you want to start?
Well, both Rick and I answered your email.
Yes, you did, and I was very happy with that.
And Rick took the perspective from the National Weather Service.
Yep.
He talked about what he views as job opportunities within the Weather Service, and there are going to be openings in the Weather Service. From the private sector and also academia, my input was you need to network, you need to get experience, which means internships, any opportunities you can get so that those in the field get to know you, and the skill set that you can bring to the table. And that's how you get employed. Is you provide the skill set and understanding, a set of tools that they can't live without.
True. So there, Cameron, you get your question answered live.
Look at that. That was awesome.
So what year are you in school, Cameron?
I'm going to be graduating this year, getting a bachelor's degree in meteorology in May.
Good.
I've been into weather since 6 years old. I love storm chasing. I live in California, unfortunately. There's really no weather here. It's unfortunate.
What area does Cameron want to get into, Bill?
Yeah, Kevin asked, what area of weather do you want to get into, Cameron?
Probably operational forecasting, maybe severe weather, or maybe broadcast. I mean, I run a website. I've done green screens. I kind of all around, I guess.
Well, good. Well, this is the place to network, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Kevin, you have anything to add for Cameron?
Well, I absolutely 1,000% agree with the internship comment. I mean, that's what got me hooked up with James so many years ago, and one day I'll get him for it. But those are you absolutely have to, and pound on doors to get one of those. Broadcasting, I think there are going to be some major changes for people just coming out of school. I don't know what the long-term viability is. I think there will be something there, but I think it's going to be a painful 10 to 12 years, and if you want any kind of security, I don't know if that's the way to go.
Yeah, social media is having profound impact on the broadcast industry.
And I'll say this, I don't know if you guys saw the ESPN announcement today with the Sling TV thing from Dish Network, but basically what happened today, I think, is going to change our business. We've all been waiting for something like this to happen, but now you can basically get ESPN unbundled from cable or satellite through this service that's going to be offered by Dish. You still pay $20 a month, and you get some channels, but I would think that's going to start.
I agree with that, James, and I would add to it that I think if you want to make some sort of a mark in broadcasting, I think what happened 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago was we ceded responsibility for social to Twitter and Facebook and other parties and didn't grab a hold of those things ourselves as an industry. And now what I see the trends are these broadcasters and these larger companies especially are trying to take control back. Whether they can or not remains to be seen, but they're going to try, and if you want to help make an impact in that area, I would think about things to do that can help take it back, because they're going to be looking for ideas, and that's hopefully one of the things that I'm going to be working on here in Wichita Falls, James.
And no, I think these are exciting times, but I agree it's going to be very bumpy. But now that ESPN is gone to a situation where you can get it without cable or satellite, I expect CBS and NBC and ABC to start, streaming their stuff without cable and satellite, and it's going to leave broadcasters, the old traditional local broadcasters, in a very interesting situation.
Yep.
So yeah, we all know this is coming. How long we've talked about the business model is dead, and there's going to be a lot of pain and weeping and gnashing of teeth, and here we are, where that's probably going to be happening soon.
Yeah, you're right. The ESPN thing, just to add a little color to it, and I don't know the exact numbers, but as I understand it, most cable networks pay per subscriber, and pay the providers, the cable companies pay the networks, the providers like HGTV or whatever it is. I think they're generally clustered around and either side of $1 per subscriber, and it could be quite a bit lower, quite a bit higher. But ESPN, as I understand it, is exponentially the highest at a rate of over $5 per subscriber. And so with them making a change like that, that is a really earth-shifting paradigm change for the cable companies and the satellite companies.
Yep. All right, Bill, unmute the floor. That was a long answer to your question, but back to you guys in Phoenix, Arizona. You'll have to unmute.
There we go.
Bill.
Okay.
There you go.
So, James, we've got a weather legend here with us now. Do you recognize this face?
He's got a good-looking haircut.
I tell you what, though, you've seen his name on the bottom of a lot of National Hurricane Center advisories.
For years.
Lexi and Avila
Wow.
is with us here, who's a weather legend.
I'm the oldest guy at the Hurricane Center. I've been there longer than anybody else.
So when
This
did you
is
start
this
at the
is
NHC?
thrilling. I'm just now I'm just started the Hurricane Sandy book for that we did the interview the other day, and so he's prominently figured in the Hurricane Sandy book. This is perfect timing. I'm so happy to put a face with the name.
Thank you.
Well, he has a great talk later this week, and we're excited to have you here. So what year did you start at the Hurricane Center?
1980.
1980.
Yep.
So you've seen a lot of things happen during that
A
time.
lot of things. I was working for Neil Frank
Wow.
back then. Yeah, he hired me.
So you've seen a lot of the National Hurricane Center directors come and go, right?
8
8.
of them. I'm an old man.
So I guess you've seen a lot of technology change too
Yes.
over the years, right?
I remember one map a day, one 500 millibar map a day, and just a little piece of paper, and now we got enough to guide the horse.
So do you find it much easier to forecast today, obviously, than then? But are there some things that make it harder?
No, it's much better.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I mean, I don't even know how I did it in the past.
So tell us how you got into weather, Lexington, and how you got that job.
Well, that's a long story, and
We're going anywhere.
I was born in Cuba,
Yes.
on the north coast of Cuba, and we got all this high waves and hurricanes, and I always wanted to be a hurricane guy, so I came to the United States and got my master's and my PhD, and Neil Frank hired me. So, end of story right there. And then I worked for Max Mayfield, and I worked for Bill Reed, and I worked for Bob, and I worked for everybody, and now I'm working for Rick now.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
So talk about the recent changes politically in Cuba, the United States normalizing relations again. What do you think about all that?
Outstanding.
Is it correct?
Actually, we never had any problems with Cuba at the
Right.
Hurricane Center. We fly Hurricane Hunter planes, we get their data. All these years we've been doing that. So probably this will be a little bit easier for us. And the bottom line is, whatever hurricane goes through Cuba, it's going to hit us
That's
later
right.
on, so we must well get their data.
We are definitely tied at the belt in the hurricane department.
That
aren't
is
we?
correct, yeah.
So that's great. So any big things coming up at the Hurricane Center this year that are new and different?
Now the same thing, we're planning. Maybe one day we're going to have the 7-day forecast. We might have a lot of new things, but no, really, we want to improve the Genesis forecast. We like to be better, but sometimes it's very difficult.
I think the surge potential is a huge improvement.
Oh yeah, but that's
I think that's a great
really
product.
really good. The new product from Stone Surge will be fantastic.
Yes.
I have to admit, even myself, I have to learn how to do these new things because I cannot do everything. But this is one product that will be fantastic for the United States, and I
Bill,
hope eventually for the Caribbean.
Bill,
Yeah.
I have a question if you have a second.
Oh, absolutely. I was about to turn to you, Kevin. I know you've got to have some from your new book.
Thank you. I would love to know Mr. Avila's opinion on social media, especially Facebook, and more particularly what your thoughts are on the crazy forecasts that go out 7-10 days in advance of an event from people who might be hobbyists, and what kind of panic that spreads.
Well, to be honest with you, I never pay attention to 7-day and 10-day forecasted if it's not made by me. So I do not know, but I that's good that people practice, and they will practice and practice and practice, and one day we're going to be right.
Well, probably in all areas of weather. It seems the Hurricane Center is the most established authority in that area. So people look to the Hurricane Center no matter what for those forecasts.
I have to tell you, the expertise accumulated at the Hurricane Center for the past 50, 60 years is amazing. So if I'm working out there, if I wasn't working at the Hurricane Center and I'm working in another TV station somewhere, I said, I will pay attention to the Hurricane Center. It's not because I don't know. It's because the expertise accumulated there throughout the years is very
Amazing.
important.
I think that's the key. The accumulation over so many decades. Decades of work.
So what's the most memorable storm you remember working with?
Andrew.
Andrew.
I called Bob in the morning. It said 5 in the morning. I said, Bob, it's a hurricane. And he said, don't go home. Wait for me. I was working the midnight shift. When
This
it
was on
became a
Friday
hurricane.
night, Saturday morning?
That was Friday night, Saturday morning. Yes. And I was there, and I called it a hurricane. My advisor was right there. That's interesting.
Wow. And were you there when the hurricane came through? So you were in the hurricane center?
Yeah, I had to work many days.
That was a very dangerous situation, too, that night in the hurricane center, right?
It was. It was.
The radar came down and some other...
Well, not the radar, the dome.
The dome came.
Yeah. But we were safe. But then we moved to the new building.
It's like a fortress now, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very nice. Very good. And technology and wires and computers, really nice.
And when you go around Miami, are you like a rock star? Like I said, we went with Max Mayfield to lunch, and I mean, he literally was like a rock star.
Max was. But, you know, people forget when we haven't had any big hurricanes in Miami in a long time, so I haven't been on TV very often. Sometimes when you go to Home Depot or somewhere like that, I go for my usual things that everybody needs to buy, and some people say, they know something that I don't know. But that's
outstanding.
Max is the man.
Well, it is an honor to have you on the
you.
show. I said, thank you. We'll have you back for a whole show eventually. I was glad to see you on the list of speakers.
Thank you
for
much.
joining us, and good luck.
I'm glad I was here with you guys.
We'll see you around this week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lacey. Go enjoy the rest of your night.
Well, I talk too much.
No, you're
You forced me to talk.
So James, that's a weather legend. We got another weather legend here, waiting to talk to you. So let's get him in here.
Let's get him in. Marshall, come on in. Come on over in the middle here.
Okay.
You recognize this guy?
Hey guys, how's it going? Is that Span?
Dr. Shepard is a legend. He is.
It's here.
Dr. Shepard is a legend. He's a babe magnet. The man is brilliant. What else can you say about it? So Marshall, you got Dr. John on your program, I understand. This is going to be a good show.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think we've been giving too much love to the AMS. We got to get some NWA balance in there, and I think that was one of the things I told the guys. I was like, look, we got to have some NWA that gives some NWA some love. And what better person than John Scala, my former colleague at NASA?
We go back over 20 years. Did
Yeah,
you know that, James?
This guy knew me when I could barely blow my nose. Because I was a young brat student.
Hair that looks like that, or is that his real hair? That's my main question.
I think it was actually a little bigger when I first met him. No,
he's after me for my hair.
No, don't we all wish we had that, James?
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
I'm actually about to go in here now and give a talk. I knew you were doing a show there, so I'm glad Rick invited me over. It's been a good meeting so far. I mean, this is like WeatherBrains, Weather Geek heaven out here.
Absolutely.
It truly is.
So Dr. Shepard, plug the show, man. Plug Weather Geeks. What are you doing out there with it?
Yeah, we've got 4 shows we're doing out here. We're doing a show with Kim Koloko and Susan Jaskow, just more on some of the things that we've talked about with you on messaging the weather and sort of just picking up on some of the themes we've heard out here at the show. We're going to do a show with Bill Gale and John about weather professional societies, what their role is, what their future role is. Should they be moderating digital seals and some of the issues of the day? We've got a really provocative show. I'm probably going to get the buzzer right now, but with Roger Pilkey Sr. and David Titley talking about that statistical weather that we all know of. I won't use the term climate, and then we've got Catherine Sullivan, the head of NOAA, on, and the chief scientist, Rick Spinrad, talking about the future of NOAA.
That's awesome. Well, I think it's a great idea. Now, have you got a set out there? I mean, where are you going to record these things?
Oh, yeah.
These guys, they've got a little change there. They've got a little set that they funded. So I actually haven't seen it in its full glory yet. But yeah, it's gonna be like a college game day environment. So hopefully nobody's going to be wearing anything that makes me lose my concentration and start laughing.
I've got a sign that I'm going to take, James, that says I'm naked.
Yeah. He's gonna be holding up a James Spann poster. We want to make sure we get some weather.
Yeah, I brought the bobblehead dog.
We've got Jason Samenow from the Capitol Weather Game, so I'm gonna bounce out of here because I've got to get ready to go give my talk.
All right, Marshall. Good to see
See
you.
you,
Have
James.
fun.
You have to take care.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got Dr. Shepard doing a TED-like talk tonight.
All right.
So that's a
Grabbing
good
you,
one.
bud.
Here's
All right,
another
sure.
great voice from the past and a WeatherBrains alum, James. Jason Samenow from the Capitol Weather Game. Jason, welcome to WeatherBrains.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
These guys do a great job. Jason, you guys are awesome. I'm a fanboy.
Thanks so much. Right back at you. I love your work. And, it's terrific, everything you do.
So Jason,
I
you were
saw
one of the
a
first
tweet
digital
from
seals, too, by the NWA. That was a pretty big deal.
You stepped all over.
I know.
I'm hearing two questions at the same time, but you asked me about the NWA
Yeah,
seal.
about the
That's
seal.
an honor in joining you right
Yeah,
here.
I was very excited to be in there with you.
Mike Mogul as well. Yeah, it's great to see the NWA taking that initiative, and hopefully more people in the digital space will get involved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So James, you were going to ask Jason a question?
Jason, it's Kevin Selle. How you doing?
What's up, Kevin? How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you? Good to hear your voice. Tell us what's going on at the Post with regard under the new Jeff Bezos. What are they going to do for the weather for you?
Yeah, he stole my question.
Yeah.
It's really good. Bezos is investing a lot of resources into the Post. It's got a long runway for us to innovate and try some new and different things, and try to figure out how to make money in online news, which is a huge challenge. But whereas a lot of online media organizations are laying people off, buying people out, the Post has hired about 100 people in the last year. So we're really in an expansion mode.
You expanded your staff early last year, didn't you? How many you have working for you now, full and part-time?
Well, I hired a full-time person to work with me, Angela Fritz. She came from Weather Underground at the Weather Company. So she's a great help, really versatile, and she's really helping them with a lot of our national weather coverage, some of our astronomy, climate coverage as well. So I feel really fortunate to have somebody else on board, and it's great to be able to attend AMS and have someone back in DC running the show. We've got a snow event tomorrow morning, in fact.
Hey, Dave,
Very
Jason,
cool.
do you know a guy named Fred Ryan by any chance?
I do know Fred Ryan. Yeah, he's our new publisher. Yeah, so I've met him a couple times. It seems like a great guy. So and he came from Alberton. He was Bob Ryan's former boss over at Alberton. So,
I worked for Fred for 18 years, and
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So what can you talk? What's the 411 from your perspective?
Well, I'm going to say, we are with WJLA sister stations. And,
right.
The All Britons got out of the television business last year, to our regret, but things happen. But Fred, I think you'll like him. The one thing I like about Fred, he gave me the freedom to do whatever I needed to do. And as you know, weather people are strange. We're just anomalies by nature of who we are. And he didn't try to understand me. He just asked good questions, and he just let me go. I just said, Fred, give me the ball. When there's bad weather, give us the ball. We've got it covered. So I think you will like Fred Ryan. He's a good guy.
That's great to hear. And I'd have to say the Post all along has been really good about leaving the weather desk alone and letting us do our thing. So, it's really, and it makes going to work each day, really rewarding to be able to know that we have the independence to make the decisions we need to make in our weather coverage. So, I'm thrilled to be working where I am.
And one more question. When are you guys going to start doing video stuff? Like, you got a tornado warning for DC. When do you start streaming your own coverage?
That's a great question. I mean, we do, whenever there's a major weather event, we are doing web video hits for those. What we have not started to do is what you just talked about, is doing live streaming during a severe weather situation, and we're going to look at doing that potentially. I think we need to go there because we're doing more video, but I think it would take our coverage to the next level if we could do some of that live streaming during extreme events. So I hope we'll get there.
Yeah, I don't understand why so many newspapers have not started doing this. There's nothing to stop you from doing it. There's no barrier to entry. So I think it's great. I think you guys could lead the way.
Yeah, no, I think we need to take that initiative, and we'll looking ahead to the spring season, maybe we'll start to experiment with that.
Outstanding. Well, Jason,
Great.
same now. It's great to have you here.
It's a pleasure. Thanks
for
for
what
having
you
me
do.
on board. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to see you.
You too. Awesome. James, we've got another familiar
another.
face here.
Keith.
You want to introduce her?
Go right ahead.
I love having the two camera shot here. So we got Rick's camera. Rick is like just kind of sneaking around here. There's a back angle back there. This is great.
So James, one of our first great guests, how many years ago? 7, 8 years ago, was Eve Gruntfest, who was in charge of the Was Is program. It's now 10 years old. Eve, talk about how it's going at this point.
Well, we don't have any money, but we have a really devoted set of 500 people involved, and a lot more people every year who are interested, and we're carrying on. And I think the movement toward integrating social science, everybody agrees, is happening. I mean, I'm not sure how well it's happening. I mean, it's happening more than it did before, but there are a lot of issues about how to best do this. Just to discover it is one thing, but then to really figure out how to do it well is another thing that we're struggling with. But we have a lot of capability, and young people who are still, even today after our session, there were 2 people who came up and said, "I found my people." And so, unfortunately, they can't participate in any workshops, but they can come out for a beer and hopefully get mentored by a lot of the people who've discovered how to do this. So I'm hopeful for the future.
It really has to be exciting to see a lot of your protégés really actively involved in the weather enterprise.
It is.
Talk about some of those.
They don't really like
alums
knowing that they're mid-career already. They like thinking that they're still early career, but a lot of them are really in leadership roles, whether they're researchers or they're in the National Weather Service or even in broadcasting, anywhere. At FEMA, we had a panel today that was very well attended, and it had representatives from the private sector, the public sector, the federal government, and very good comments, very thoughtful, and very sobering in a way to sort of recognize that the platform for social science is definitely much bigger than it used to be, but in terms of the criteria for what we're using for really changing policy based on the social science, it's really uneven in terms of what we use. Sometimes based on a big tornado post-disaster report, we change policy, and then other times there'll be a 5-year study of hurricane evacuation, and then we still don't change policy. So the way I characterized it during my talk was it's like growing pains. So I think that's positive at the end.
So Eve, if any of the listeners out there want to get involved in What Is This, how do they do that?
The only thing we have going right now is the Facebook page. So I recommend that they get on the Facebook page, which does carry a lot of opportunities for scholarships and jobs. And there's a lot of discussions about tornado shelters in schools, or are we overwarning, or things that would be really of a lot of interest to the WeatherBrains audience.
Well, outstanding. Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah,
it's
great to see you.
Nice
Thanks
to have
for
you on the show
inviting me.
tonight. Thank you for coming.
I love the show. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eve.
All right, we have another specialty item here. Oh, she's disappeared. A WeatherBrains alum and very popular guest that we've had in the past.
I'm sure they got smart and bailed on you. That they ran.
They're in the bar line, James.
That's right.
Oh, great.
Here we go. She's back now. She's put her beer in a paper cup. It's just perfect.
There you go. Nickel beer night at the AMS.
Here we go. Here is a great guest. Here's a guest that I've wanted to have for a long time. Jamie, come join us.
This goes in.
Just stick it in there, and this is James Spann and Kevin Selly. Right. James, this is Jamie Rome from the National Hurricane Center. He's been actively involved in a lot of the surge work, and we've already had Lexian on tonight, but now we've got you, Jamie. So we're really 2 for 2 in the hurricane department.
All right,
so
it's good to see.
Talk about some of the work that's going on and what's coming for this year from the Hurricane Center in the surge area.
Well, James, first, I'm a big fan. I follow you on Twitter and internet, and so I see all your stuff. With respect to storm surge, it's an incredibly busy period within storm surge as we begin rolling out new initiatives. The first of which was this past hurricane season with the new real-time inundation graphic that was launched during Hurricane Arthur in North Carolina. The feedback we got from all of our constituents was a very good launch, and people are excited to see that transition to operational in the next couple of years. Now this year we follow up with the new storm surge warning. Historically, we've only had a hurricane warning, which covers the wind threat, but it doesn't do a good job covering the storm surge threat. So the way to elevate storm surge is to have a dedicated storm surge warning for that hazard.
So we can expect that product to be operational this year, Jamie? Is that
Would it
right?
be experimental? Experimental this year. The way we do things in the Weather Service is we like to have people give us feedback, make sure we're on the right track. So we introduce things experimentally, open it up to the public, have them, anybody who's interested provide feedback, and then we fold that feedback into the operational implementation to make sure that we do it consistent with our users' needs.
So Jamie, talk about your background for a second, how you got to be at the Hurricane Center, and it must really be a thrill to work there.
Well, surprisingly, it didn't have the traditional tropical evolution. Most people go for Florida State or other big name tropical university and then jump into hurricanes. I actually came up in mid-latitude, mid-latitude weather in North Carolina. Went to North Carolina State. Was a big winter weather fan. Loved snow forecasting. So it seemed like I was on that pathway. And then the job came up in the Hurricane Center, and it just seemed like an interesting gig, something fun to try. Went for it, was lucky enough to get it. 15 years later, here I am.
So how did surge become your passion?
It was one of those opportunities. It came open. Bill Reed was the director at that time. He sort of said, surge has got a big, lot of evolution that's going on. I'd actually just gone to NOAA's leadership school, and so I was sort of anxious to try out some of the leadership stuff that I had learned in leadership school. And so I just decided to give it a try. Fell in love with it right out of the gates. It's been the best job I've ever had. I'm still doing it 6 years later, so clearly I like it, and it's hard to envision doing anything other than this.
So Jamie, talk about how Hurricane Sandy was a game changer.
You stole my question.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
How is that a game changer for the Hurricane Center and the Weather Service?
So Sandy was a case where the forecast was really, really good, and it just wasn't understood. So it really illuminated what we're trying to do in storm surge, which is overhaul our products and services to be more in line with the needs of our users, to be less scientific jargon and more to the point. Where is the worst hazard going to be, and what should I do? So Sandy really showed that the evolution, the pathway that we're on, is the right path. I really wish we would have been further along that path during Sandy to start having that new technology hit the streets during Sandy. Unfortunately, we just weren't there yet. But I'm happy to report that Sandy really put a shot in the arm on this evolution. The Sandy supplemental infused cash into the execution strategy, so we're able to speed things up quite a bit, and we're going to deliver faster because of Sandy than we probably would have otherwise.
So Jamie, we had Cameron Venable, a student from San Jose State, just a few minutes ago, and he asked the question: is a master's degree important getting into the Weather Service?
More and more, yes. It used to be that bachelor's degree was sort of the where you started your career in meteorology. Now I'm pretty much advising all young people that I encounter in meteorology to go on and get your master's degree. It's sort of the base. And the interesting thing about the master's degree, if you're on the fence and you're just not sure, no one can take it away from you. Once you get it, it's yours. No one can take it away from you. The experience that you gain, the confidence that you gain, the ability to do things on your own that you learn in getting a master's degree will carry with you for the rest of your career. So if you're on the fence, just go ahead and get the master's degree. It'll never, ever, ever hurt you in your career.
So where do you see things in 15, 25 years, like we were talking about this morning in the plenary session, at least from the hurricane standpoint? How will things change?
I think things are becoming. We've always historically produced products, and a graphic, a map, an image that that gave the forecast. I think more and more you're going to produce data and services whereby the consumer or the user or the vendor tailors that, tailor the way that they consume the information. So it won't be us sort of driving how an individual consumes data. We'll be pushing data out there, which will be the back end of the user experience.
Well, that's sort of exciting for the private industry then, because that means there'll be more and more opportunities to use this wealth of data that the Weather Service is creating.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the partnership with the private sector is going to be even more important as we march down this pathway.
Fantastic. Well, Jamie, it's an honor to have you on the show tonight. We'll have you back for a full 45 minutes sometime.
All right, take care.
Come back anytime.
All right.
Thank you, Jamie. So, James, everybody wants to know when you're going to be here. When are you coming back to AMS, James?
Well, again, the problem for some people, this is a tough time of the year. I will guarantee you, every year in January, I'm going to deal with either tornadoes, floods, snow, or ice. And those of us who work on the television side, the folks that run these TV stations don't like for their main weather people to be gone during active times, and it's tough. I've done AMS meetings. I went to the one in Austin a couple of years ago. Went to one in New Orleans. But I will say this: my favorite AMS gatherings over the years have been the Severe Local Storms Conference and the Hydrology Conference. And I don't even know if they do those separately anymore. It might be all just one big function now.
Well, it'll be in New Orleans next year, James, so you'll have no excuse. You can just catch the Amtrak and be in New Orleans.
Well, they were just down there like, 3 or 4 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, okay. It's like in a rotation now. 3 or 4 cities?
Yeah.
So something like that. Well, James, the Montana Weather Girl's back. So Tanya Francine.
Stay away. She cannot stay away.
She's, of course, the WCM
I've
at
been
Glasgow.
helping recruit your speakers tonight, but I ran out of people.
It's an amazing job she's done, too. So, Tanya, what's going on in your world? You're sharing all the sessions dealing with the big events of 2014, right?
Absolutely. We're going to be talking about global events that happen around the world, as well as events in the United States. We're actually going back to the Yarnell fire that happened here in Arizona, even though it wasn't in 2014, because we're in that area. And I mean, when you lose 19 firefighters like that, it still hangs on your heart, and it's worthy of bringing up again. So have
you studied that event a lot? Tanya?
I've read the report. I used to be a firefighter in college, and so it's near and dear to my heart. My brother is a firefighter with the Park Service.
So remind the audience what happened and what the meteorological factors were behind it.
We had some showers and thunderstorms that came over the fire area, and some of the outflow was a lot more than they had anticipated. And by the time they started seeing that those winds were coming and getting that message to the fire crews that were on the fire line, and they were caught in an area that was just really too difficult to get out of, and they didn't have time to deploy their shelters that they have. So it's really, really sad when you lose people like that.
Well, that's a tragic event in fire weather history for sure.
Absolutely.
So now you were going to talk about some other events that you're going to cover?
I should have looked at the session before I came over here. The big ones for us every year are the tornado session of 2014, and so we'll have Russell Schneider from the Storm Prediction Center, and then Lixian, who was just on the show, is going to cover the tropical storms from the past year. But we've got a lot of people, the big fires of 2014. Tim Brown from DRI out of Reno always gives an entertaining presentation.
Didn't he speak at NWA?
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did. But he is a very entertaining speaker, and his wife Mary has guaranteed me tonight she's going to make sure there's nothing inappropriate in the slides. So apparently he likes to put a little bit of humor in there. But maybe you need to have him on the show sometime.
Definitely.
An amazing speaker, and he knows fire and Western climate like you wouldn't believe.
That'd be great.
Well, we can't wait for your sessions, Tanya.
All right.
We're glad you were with us tonight. Thank you for helping us recruit some great guests.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Nice to meet you,
You
John.
too.
I know your name, but I've never had a chance
That's
to
a
meet
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
It's good to see you, Tanya.
All right,
Thank you. Now, we gave a big build-up earlier, James, to a lot of the work that Eli Jacks is doing. So let's get him to come in and join us.
The hits just keep rolling here, James.
Good evening, guys.
Oh. So I did a very poor job explaining some of the stuff that you're working in behind, Eli. So give the overview to the group of some of the projects you're working on with the simplification process.
My pleasure. We're here at the AMS meeting, and we are actually doing a survey showing people some prototypes of how we might evolve the watch warning advisory system. It is something potentially more clear and more easily understood. It's a hypothesis that we hear. People misunderstand the terms. Watch and warning both begin with WA. Advisory is a rather non-specific term that doesn't have any particular weight or significance. And the terms actually, I are saying, have an orthogonal logic in that two of the terms deal with certainty, two of them deal with impact. But when you put them, all three of them together, watch, warning, and advisory, it doesn't go from bad to worst, and it's not intended to be that way. So the combination of the term definition, the orthogonal logic, and the 122 products we have, which we're expecting the public to differentiate among, I think there may be a better way, and we have social scientists that are helping us, and it's really been a lot of fun here at AMS getting people's feedback. We're going to analyze it, refine our prototypes, and the idea is to build a little, test a little, and hopefully start implementing some of these ideas. One of the ideas we're showing is that the Europeans use the meteor alarm system, which is a four-color hierarchical system that combines certainty and impact. And the idea is that we could perhaps teach the colors to the public, a limited color scale, perhaps even emergency colors such as purple or black beyond the yellow, orange, and red, that would be used for situations like Hurricane Sandy or the derecho or Snowmageddon or any of these really unusual events where we really want people to pay attention.
So James, we've got a pop quiz question for you. I know Eli will know the answer.
Hey, Bill Murray, let me interrupt. Your audio has gone funky all of a sudden. Whatever you do to reboot or replug or whatever, it's been great, but just right a second ago.
Give me 5 seconds to talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. Kevin, what's your opinion on that?
A hot set here, James. I can't say too much. Oh,
this is great. So this is good. So it's just me and Kevin who can't talk, and Rick. And see, Rick is out there like running. Rick has got to be the highest paid cameraman in America. All right, Bill, you're back in there. Go.
Okay. So James, you remember the 64-color box of crayons from Crayola? So which color on the National Weather Service map is represented by burnt umber?
I thought it was burnt sienna. Wasn't it burnt sienna?
Oh, well, anyway, one of those colors. But anyway, I know Eli knows the answer. That's one of the things, Eli. As you look at that map, some people think it's confusing. What are some of the ideas that have come from your behavioral research as to how we can improve that?
Well, we have a few ideas. So instead of having 122 colors with different products such as flood warning, flash flood warning, there's actually 20 flood warning products. There's 14 winter products. Perhaps just have the hazard, say winter weather, wind, flood, and use what we call a saturated and an unsaturated color. So, for example, a deep blue for a specific hazard and perhaps a lighter blue for the watch version of that hazard. So one would be warning, the other watch. And the other is the meteor alarm approach, the four-color approach. But we may get other feedback from the surveys, which we're doing on iPads. People are free to give us additional comments. So it's really wide open. But the important thing about this is that we coordinate this effort with the entire weather enterprise. And beyond the weather enterprise, insurance companies may make decisions based on our current watch warning advisory products. There's a lot. We need to be very careful before doing anything official. So it could take many, many years, but we still can start testing some of the ideas, getting feedback, improving, and moving forward. That's my vision for the project.
Yeah, there was an excellent discussion in the session where the gentleman, I don't remember who it was, said, well, we deal with hurricane warnings and watches, we deal with severe weather warnings and watches, all with different color scales. Let's have the same color scale. There's a consensus of opinion now that we need to work towards this.
Consistency is a really big topic in the Weather Service right now, and even within the Weather Service, we have different colors used by different entities within the Weather Service to convey certainty and impact in different ways. So what I actually said today in my presentation is that if we lay the foundation from the national level with this hazard simplification project,
as to what the colors should be, then we can inspire everyone else to follow suit with those same colors.
I think that will happen. I really do. I think there's a strong move in that direction. We just need to find the process to make it happen.
That's right. And so, again, a lot of stakeholder engagement with a very sequential, specific plan for doing so and gathering the feedback. I agree.
So, Eli, this morning, riding in on the light rail, Dr. Scala looked at me and commented, there would probably be some confusion in Pennsylvania because there would be an advisory issue. We learned in Atlanta after the events of last January that advisory in some minds is a downgrade. So things like that are coming up in your behavioral response research also?
Well, this came out of a major stakeholder meeting they had in Atlanta in reviewing that storm, and it's a very good point, something I briefed today, that when a forecaster issues a watch, by policy, the idea is that there's a 50% chance or greater probability that it will evolve to a warning. So in a way, an advisory can be thought of as a failed watch. But we don't really want to think of it that way because, again, it's this orthogonal logic thing. Okay. An advisory deals with imminence. The watch deals with less certainty. Yes. You can't really compare the two. The watch was valid. It's just that the impact was not as great as it might have been. It's not that it's a failure or a downgrade.
The town hall today was a huge success, I think.
Well, we had a lot of people show up, and we got people lined up to give their feedback and comments.
And you got one piece of feedback that you really didn't solicit, but that was useful to you, right?
Which one was that?
Somebody stood up and asked a question or said something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it resonated with you when they said it.
Oh boy, there were so many comments. It's been a very long day. But the one thing that did resonate, one of the broadcasters from Houston got up and said, maybe that was the one, and said, "Hey, listen, actually that's where we held our focus groups with our social scientists."
He said he was part of it.
And he said he was part of it. He said, "Thanks a million. You've got everything all stirred up. Now people are trying to use doing different ways of doing things. Would you please do something soon? Let's start moving forward on this." And we've heard some of that. So it's a balance between the social science that requires really wide-ranging longitudinal study of how people respond to risk, and to really define what problem are we trying to solve anyway. It's one thing to say there's confusion, but what about that? Do people change their behavior if they weren't confused? So these are fair questions that we need to answer. But the balance between the 10 years that it would ideally take to do it perfectly, and the shorter time scale where people are saying, hey, there are some good ideas here. Let's at least test them out. So in the Weather Service, we do have this experimental process by which we can float things. No cost to operations, no change to operations. But then as we get the good feedback, we can integrate it and move on. And I guess the thought I have is that perhaps in 10 years, if we took away watch only advisory, maybe nobody would notice it because we've been infiltrating these new ideas, and you take it away and it doesn't really matter.
But it's an exciting prospect. It really is.
Well, we're excited to follow your progress with it, Eli. We want to have you back on the show when we can talk for 45 minutes. I had a real quick question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that your program is actually under facets. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, I'm working
Explain what you meant by that.
Certainly. It's my pleasure to be collaborating with Lance Rothfuss of NSSL, who is leading the Facets project, which also has wide support across the community. And so the fifth of the 7 facets that he discusses is useful forecaster output, and he cites the hazard simplification project and the gyre, the green, yellow, and red color scheme that he also wants to go to as being part of that. So it's very closely linked, and I'm very happy that it is. It's very important to link the research of NOAA with the operations, and that's what we're doing.
Well, fantastic. We'll have you back on the show when we can have you for an entire hour.
It will be my pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Dave, we've really got an all-star panel here tonight, and the hits just keep coming.
You guys have scored some big interviews out there.
Rick Smith is going to be the new honorary guest booking officer. He and Tanya are. Oh, it's Tanya doing all the work. You're just coming up and telling us, right? All right, good. James, this is Gina Iosco. Dr. Gina Iosco is a behavioral scientist.
That's correct. Communication specialist.
We said social scientist for so long, and someone today stood up and took umbrage to that. Gina, is that?
Well, yes. Social science is sort of like calling the meteorology community, "Hey, physical scientists, how you doing?" Right? We don't call it the American Physical Scientist Society. We call it the American Meteorological Society, which is still interdisciplinary. But social science really is an umbrella term that represents a variety of disciplines that can really help us better communicate weather, climate, water hazards. So,
and you were part of the town hall today.
I was.
Gina. What were your takeaways from that event today?
Yeah, my takeaway is that first of all, I heard a lot of positive feedback. I actually thought we'd get a bit more pushback, but it sounds like the community wants some kind of change. So that's positive. But they don't know what kind of change they want, and that's the struggle that we're going through right now, is to make sure we assess the problem from a social science point of view. For example, if we have the current system now, and we have a prototype number 2, what metric are we using to say that prototype 2 is better than what we already have? And that's really what the Weather Service is working on right now, to make sure that we improve upon our current warning system. What I heard today was that we have to work with our partners, which is no surprise to us, and we're just really happy that they came forward. Folks like AccuWeather, University of Oklahoma, a lot of the academic community stepped forward. We had questions about the blind and deaf community, so vulnerable populations. We had questions about rural populations and how rural communication is different than urban communication. Spot on. It's absolutely spot on. And if you're going to change the warning system, you have to think about all sorts of mediums. So radio is very important, right? The blogosphere is very important. Your social media, your Twitter, Facebook, but cell phones, TV, print. So whatever warning system we move towards has to work with all of these channels. And so that's going to be a challenge for us moving forward.
So now one of the discussions today related to the watch and warning designation, and whether people have an understanding of that. Absolutely. And sort of some mixed results came back, didn't they?
That's correct. That's correct. We have everything on the spectrum, and I call it a spectrum of understanding. We have, on the right side, we have no understanding at all, just tell me what to do, to extreme sophisticated understanding, and that's by this heterogeneous thing we call the public. I mean, yeah, right? Because
I could use my family as the public. There's a spectrum of, look at the business I'm in.
You bet.
Like you. Right. My family, there's a spectrum of understanding.
You bet. Yep. I got into the weather community because I've got some weather weenies in my family, so they tend to have a little bit of understanding, but then again, they think they know, and then they tell me, well, wait, which one's a watch, which one's a warning? I got it confused. And then we kind of have the middle. Some of our focus group participants, they actually got it right at first, but there was one dissenter in the group who said, oh, I thought it was the other way around. And that's where group communication comes in. When you have one person who says, oh, I thought it was the other way around, then the whole group goes, ah, shucks, I'm not sure which one it is. Yeah, exactly, actually, exactly. It's that same group dynamics with the understanding of watch and warning. So, yeah, we have this massive spectrum, and as we know, you typically don't make decisions by yourself. You make them in a network of people, whether it's a family, a neighborhood, and so that group dynamic really plays a role in their understanding of watch and warning.
So, Gina, how important are what we call ambassadors, those people in our communities that understand weather, that sort of become the voice when storms are threatening and things like that?
Oh, you bet. So the Weather Ready Nation Ambassador Program, I think, is huge, and I really see it as the beginning of this. Whether or not we make a change, one of the focus group participants said, have you ever done a full outreach campaign on this? I mean, honestly, where are our media partners? And I don't just mean private sector weather partners, but I mean anyone who has an ethical bone in their body. How come they haven't put a commercial out there prior to the beginning of tornado season, prior to the middle of hurricane season?
One of these, right in the forehead.
It just, Where are our media partners to sort of help us get that really 20-second spot? Could you donate a 20-second spot to help us get those definitions out there? So I see, whether we make a change or not, I see the ambassador program as huge to getting outreach and education in the community. Education doesn't necessarily lead to action, but if we believe that understanding of watch and warning is at least one variable in people taking action, then we need to fix that, and our ambassadors can help us do that.
Well, Gina, what are you doing now? What's your affiliation?
Excellent question. So I just graduated this past semester after many years in school, so I'm very excited about that. I'm finishing a postdoc at Cornell University. We are funded by Sea Grant, part of the Sandy Supplemental New Jersey, New York, Connecticut Sea Grant program, the Coastal Storm Awareness Program. We're looking at storm surge communication, but I've also accepted a full-time job with Eastern Research Group in their Arlington, Virginia office, becoming a social scientist specialist and risk communication specialist primarily to the weather community.
Well,
so it's really very exciting stuff.
Yeah, it strikes me that it's one thing to have these kinds of conversations. We're in a room, we're comfortable, there's no stress, we don't have to make a decision that will lead to perhaps saving our lives. It's a totally different situation when you have to make that decision in the face of an event that's underway.
You bet. You bet. You know, I asked some questions to people who were taking our survey at our booth tonight. I said, how many of you have been in a tornado warning? Oh, a couple of you. How many of you gotten in a tub before? I said, because we tell people to go into a bathroom. Have you ever actually crawled into a tub? I've done it, and it's a very odd experience. It just feels very unnatural. And so I think actually as a community, we ought to try to do the actions, try them out before we send them to our community so we can understand how odd they feel. Yeah. Try to get in your tub with your whole family. Do that over Christmas, you know? We missed an opportunity. What's the next holiday? Valentine's Day? Go with your loved one into the tub. Now, oh boy.
yeah, tubs are like fourth bedrooms in Alabama, so we're used to spending a lot of time in them.
Well, you know,
tornado season.
It's so interesting. Sorry, when I was living in Norman, Oklahoma, a colleague of mine in the communication department said she's afraid of her tornado shelter. So she actually had one, but it was one of the older ones with the wooden door. So I'm a little bit nervous for her safety given a larger tornado. She said she doesn't like going in it because there's spiders in it. And in Oklahoma, there are poisonous spiders, and she doesn't want to get bit. And so I thought to myself, yeah, here we are telling you to go somewhere, and if you've got a fear of spiders, we're actually giving you contradictory messages. So it's not that weather isn't important to all these folks, but that weather competes with all these other fears and thoughts.
Right.
And so we have to kind of maneuver our way through that.
Well, Gina, thank you for joining us. John, did you want to ask Gina
one other comment?
Oh, you bet.
In our field, even professionals, there's an amount of inertia that has to be overcome. This was striking to me after the May 3rd 99 outage.
Sure.
I worked at the Weather Channel. It was an experience I'll never forget. And there were many people who worked at SPC at that time that didn't have shelters.
Right. Right.
And after that event, they got shelters.
Right. Right.
So how do we impress upon people that haven't had that life-threatening experience to get a shelter?
Well, I mean,
that's off
no. It's about messaging. It's about communication.
Yeah.
And I think at that point you really have to appeal to emotion, right? Again, it's those trusted ambassadors. You know, Rick Smith at the WFO and Norman, I've shadowed him before. That's where I learned a lot of my tornado weather info. I've never taken a class in meteorology, so all the meteorology I know is from shadowing experts like Rick Smith. It's really fantastic.
You can't do better than that.
You really
can't.
It's
a good place to get it.
Yeah.
But, you know, you need a trusted source.
Yeah,
you need to hear the message. You need to hear the message often. But that trust is critical because when you share an emotional appeal and you share a story, I remember the first Weather Ready Nation conference, and I think it was the emergency manager from Joplin, I believe, gave his story. I had tears. I could not cry during that conference hearing his story, yet I wasn't there. That's what we need to get at. Sometimes it's the book, what is it, Don't Be Such a Scientist? We think so much with our brain. We love the technical part of weather. But sometimes, honestly, if we spoke a little bit more to the heart and gave a story and shared our stories, that might actually reach people a little bit better.
That's part of the challenge that James knows, is being, and Brian also, being on television. That's part of the challenge, right?
You bet.
So, Gina, thank you for joining us. We'll have to have you back when you can have a whole show.
Oh, I love it. I'd love to come on.
Spectacular.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
And James, that's a good segue to get Rick Smith back in here.
Yeah,
so Rick, come join us.
We decided that Rick is the new chief camera officer for the show.
Did you hear that, Rick? You've been elected the new chief camera officer.
Well, I'd have to work out a little bit more. My arms are tired, but it's not as easy as it looks. But it's a lot of fun, man. We had a lot of great people stop by tonight.
This was a world-class group, and Gina was talking about you there, so it's a good segue. You had a part today in the session that you chaired, talking about this act of getting ready for tornadoes, getting ready for tornado season. Talk about that just for a second. Rick.
Yeah, it's a fairly simple concept, and James, I'm sure you're one of the ones that's doing this, is, you know, our tornado safety rules that we have and have been using since the 60s haven't changed a lot, and they're based on the fact that, you know, back in the 50s and 60s you'd look out the back door and see the tornado coming. We're a little bit better than that now. So my talk was about, you know, let's give people some practical advice, things that they can do during the outlook and the watch phase, before hours or days before the tornado gets there. Some practical things. You know, we tell people they're in a moderate risk, or we tell people they're in a tornado watch, and you know, some people say, well, so what? What am I supposed to do with that? We tell them what to do in a hurricane watch or a hurricane warning, but not a tornado watch. So it's just some simple things, some lessons we learned from the May tornadoes, talking to some of the people that survived, things like vacuuming out your storm shelter and charging up your cell phones and having a communication plan. And then as the weather enterprise, it's not just the Weather Service, it's the media and everybody else. Share that information as we're ramping up to an event. Tell people, okay, severe weather is expected tomorrow afternoon. Here's what this means. Here's what you can do right now to get ready for it. Sounds like a tease for a newscast or something. But what these storms will do to you and what you can do to be ready. But yeah, that was the gist of it. And you know, people seem to respond to it. People seem to like the. I mean, I can't even read some of the titles for the talks at this conference. They're so technical. But you know, the simple things like this, the practical advice, I think really resonated with people. And you know, I think it's important to do that, to tell people what they can do to be ready before the warning goes out.
But you mentioned two things in your talk that I thought were really important. Number one, you know, we tell people to get a kit. Well, there's a monetary cost associated with that in some process, so sometimes that's an obstacle. Right. And then we tell them to have a plan, and then that tends to make their eyes glaze over too.
Yeah, telling people to get a kit, and you know, the first thing I think of with a kit is I've got to get a big crate, and I've got to get gallons of water for each member of my family, and I've got to buy stuff. A lot of people can't buy stuff. A lot of people don't want to go spend money. We can't even get them to spend $20 or $30 on a weather radio. So getting a kit, a lot of people just stop at that phase. And then having a plan. When I think of having a plan, people think, you know, my God, I got to go buy a binder, or you know, I got to buy some paper and start printing things out. A plan doesn't have to be anything like that. So we want to get people, give people more practical advice to get them around that. You know, I think there's a roadblock sometimes at that get a kit stage. They just stop and they go, well, I can't do that, so there's no need for me to even try to be ready for it. But so yeah, those are important points too, and again, this is just things that we've learned from talking to people that have been in tornadoes or live in our area in Oklahoma and Texas, and so yeah, it was a great group. It was a great crowd there, and a full day of great stuff. I mean, I'm exhausted, but gosh, and you can only sit in one. There was 23 different sessions going on at one time.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. At NWA, you have one session, and you know what you're going to get. But yeah, here you've got to pick between 23, and a lot of times they're competing. So.
I had to get an app on my phone to actually schedule what I was going to see and when I was going to see it and get alerts and all that kind of thing. But it's if you're into weather, gosh, there's no other place to be.
Hey, can I ask a question of Rick? Can Rick hear me?
Yeah. Rick, put your earbud in for a second. Kevin wants to ask you a question.
Go ahead, okay, go Kevin.
Hey, Rick. Nice camera work, by the way. That was really good.
Hopefully I didn't make anybody seasick.
That was really good.
The Blair Witch Project, but that's all right.
Yeah.
I did keep waiting to see the goodies table, the snacks table. Did we get a shot of that? I was back and forth from.
It was kind of weak.
It's gone down.
It's white. It was kind of dark over there too.
Okay. Here's the actual question.
Spiders on it and things like that.
There seems to be, and I'll give a personal example in a second, but there needs to be some sort of motivating force for people. And in our personal case, you know, Matthew, and Bill relates to this, has been type 1 diabetic for almost 5 years now. And so the motivating force for us to be even better prepared, and we're in the weather enterprise, was to make sure that we had the stuff available ahead of time, or at least mentally know where everything was, so that we could go to the bathroom or the storm shelter with the necessary things for Matthew. But most people don't have that motivating force. Is there some discussion about that?
Well, I mean, you know, it's going to be different for each individual.
Right. That's why it's so hard.
Pets, for example, people with pets, that's a motivating force for them, because whether they know it or not, they've got to make extra plans. They think they're going to jump in their car and go to their community shelter in their town if they have one, or they're going to go to the library or the mall or wherever they're going to take shelter. Well, guess what? They may not let pets in there. And you may not have thought of everything for your pets. So pets are one thing. I don't know. That's a great question, and I don't have anything specific on that, but I see what you're saying. You know, giving people have their own factors that they have to deal with. So, but I don't have anything specific on that.
Well, and the follow-up to that is, and the follow-up to what you guys are doing there and talking about it is, how then are we going to most effectively communicate that to people? And obviously the broadcasters have a big communication function, but I wonder, is there going to be that connection between what comes out of a conference like this and then hitting every broadcaster? I guess the link in between is the National Weather Service, but that just kind of fascinates me because we hear so much good stuff that comes out of the conferences and then on this show, and then I wonder a lot of times, is there some breakdown as that message tries to move to the people in the local markets who are going to communicate these things?
Well, there's at least 2 or 3 local markets that will hear about it, I can assure you of that. You're sitting in one of them. But, yeah, that is the challenge with these conferences, and that's kind of a thing. It's almost kind of a letdown sometimes. You get energized when you're at these conferences and you hear so many great ideas, and then you go back home and it's like, you're back in the real world, and how do you implement this? And it's overwhelming at a conference like this. It's like, oh my gosh, I heard 1,000 good ideas. Where do I start and what do I do? And so it's that's one of the downsides of it. I don't know if you guys experience that.
I was thinking the same thing. You do not, as a consequence of a meeting like this, you don't have an instant implementation.
Right.
It takes some time to pick out the salient facts and get those on the road.
Exactly. Just an amazing event, but it is a little bit overwhelming for sure. Well, James, I don't know that we have much left from here. We've sort of
I know you guys have to go, and I'm the lead on the late news here, so we're going to let you guys go dance on the tables and put lampshades on your heads. So just take pictures and send them back. But no, you guys did a great job. Great guests, great content. You guys were fantastic. So thanks a lot, and have fun for the rest of your stay in Phoenix.
Thanks.
All right, bye, y'all.
Wait, where are you guys? It looks like a cement prison there. What's the hall?
Yeah,
it does look like we're here by ourselves.
It does. It's the Arizona Science Center, Kevin, which is a kids science museum right across from where the conference is being held.
Right, so we're actually down.
All right, guys. Y'all go have fun. At this point, we are going to take a quick break here, Kev. Me and you here. What we're going to do is roll Professor Peters. We'll come back and do some quick stuff. Obviously, we're not going to be able to do a full email segment tonight with Aubrey being out. We'll try and do a pick of the week and some other fun stuff here as WeatherBrains rolls along. Don't go away. Here comes Brian.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
A couple of weeks ago, the WeatherBrains guest mentioned side lobe contamination. So that seemed like a great topic for a 101 episode. Side lobe contamination is the result of returned power from the lobes which are off to the side of the main power lobe or radar beam. The transmitted power within the main lobe is significantly greater than that of any side lobes. For any given target, the WSR-88D's strongest side lobes would return about 50 decibels lower power than that from the main lobe. Thus, when both the main lobe and the side lobes are sampling a precipitation area, any possible increase in return power due to side lobes is usually negligible. The exception would be during low elevation scans in the presence of a strong surface-based temperature inversion, for example, during super refractive conditions, resulting in side lobe contamination due to AP clutter. The most significant side lobe contamination tends to occur with intense convection at close range. If the reflectivity gradients are large enough, a situation may occur where the main lobe is sampling clear air while the side lobes are sampling the storm. In this case, a low reflectivity would be displayed along the azimuth corresponding to the main lobe. On a reflectivity product, side lobe contamination generally appears as a smearing of low reflectivities from one azimuth to the next in a clockwise direction. The WSR-88D antenna always rotates clockwise. A strong reflectivity gradient results in side lobes interacting with a target while the main lobe does not. The core of reflectivity with the supercell has values greater than 70 dBz's, which produces a three-body scatter spike down radial, but also results in side lobe contamination in the azimuthal direction. The beam pattern of the WSR-88D is such that side lobe contamination will most likely occur from lobes which are 5 to 10 degrees off the main lobe. Therefore, side lobe contamination requires a reflectivity gradient of about 10 dBz radial, sustained for at least 5 degrees of azimuth. Three-body scatter spikes are a result of multiple reflections of the radar pulse off of large hail and the ground, and a topic for another WeatherBrains 101. If you have a question about the weather, drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, I'm Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook for the week of January 5th. Over the past few weeks, comet C214 Q2 Lovejoy has brightened to the point where it can be seen using small telescopes or binoculars. It can even be seen with the naked eye under the right conditions. I've seen it from the end of my driveway here in a Raleigh, North Carolina suburban. This is the 5th comet discovered by Australian amateur astronomer Terry Lovejoy. You can see Comet Q2 yourself. Look to the southeast a few hours after sunset for the constellation Orion. It's tipped on his side this time of year. To the right of his belt of 3 stars, you'll see the bright star Rigel in Orion's right foot. Rigel will serve as your guide to finding Q2 this week. Early in the week, Q2 will be up and to the right 10 degrees of Rigel, or about the width of your outstretched fist. Each night the comet will appear about 3 degrees further to the right until week's end. Sirius, Rigel, and Q2 will be roughly equally spaced in a nice line rising up from the southeast. Comet Q2 comes closest to the Earth this week, but is expected to be visible throughout January. Over the weekend, Venus and Mars appear very close together in the western sky, setting about an hour after sunset. That's your astronomy outlook. You can follow me on Twitter at RTPHokey for more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
It's cold. And that's all you need to know. That's the weather roundup. No, this is for January 5th, 2015, and we are getting a very nice shot of Arctic air for much of the eastern half of the nation. Kevin, how cold is it going to get in Wichita Falls? And you are muted, sir, and Kevin might be on television. You never know with Kevin.
No,
Kevin's in it.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll be on a minute here. We got a low of 14 Thursday morning.
Wow, we're going to use, again, Kevin's in Wichita Falls, Texas. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. We're using 11 here. And Huntsville, Alabama, which is about 100 miles north of here, should do 8.
Oh.
And we're expecting, 0 wind chill values Wednesday night. That would be the 6th. So, yeah, it's pretty tough. And we've got a clipper coming through some of the northern states tonight. But thank goodness where we are, we don't have any snow or ice issues with this, just cold.
Yeah, it's been a while since I remember seeing a high-pressure ridge go so far northwest and extend so far southeast at the same time.
Yeah, and I will say also that the surface pressure, it's almost 1060 millibars in the core of this thing, which is just stunning. I mean, you talk about heavy, cold air. Wow.
It'd be interesting to know, too, what the modelers are doing. Because, we have this discussion every winter where we see this, 1040, 1050, and now 1060. And when you get to 5, 6, 7 days on the guidance, it's always skewing back toward climatology. It'd be interesting to know what kind of work is going on to try and get a better handle on the long-range temperatures, especially since we seem to be in a pattern that is conducive to cold air outbreaks.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. All right, and again, that is the reason I am the lead story on our late news tonight is the cold air coming in. And remember, we're in the deep south. Understand, in Chicago, their high today was what, 4? International Falls, Minnesota had 28 below zero.
Woohoo!
It's pretty tough up in here. But what we're going to do, we're not going to do picks of the week for the regulars. We've got the fog bank. Skydaver's going to save us. So let me just say up front, for everybody on the entire show, we are going to blow the foghorn. But don't worry, we've got Skydaver.
Initiating startup sequence.
Happy New Year, WeatherBrains listeners. This is David Phillips of Skydaver on Twitter. Start off with Earth Science Picture of the Day with a photo of an equinox, yes, equinox, from space. Earth Science Picture of the Day again with supernumerary bows over Richmond, Virginia. Spaceweather.com for December 3rd had photos of noctilucent clouds over Antarctica. From WDAZ, a video of an ice circle in the Cheyenne River in North Dakota. Finally, Earth Science Picture of the Day again with a fog-chasing photo from a mountain I can't pronounce, but it'll be in the link. Thanks for listening. Skydiver out.
A lot of email. I mean, we have a lot, and we'll get to all of that next week on our show January the 12th, but due to the time restrictions, that's going to have to be the wrap for this week. And again, we had what is it with fireballs and WeatherBrains? I mean, it seems like almost once a month during this show, we have a fireball streak through our sky. I don't know. Do you have a lot of those? I don't know what it's just something about it. I mean,
it sounds like a research project. The WeatherBrains Fireball Correlation Effect.
Yeah, and thank goodness for the Marshall Space Flight Center, which is just up the road from me in Huntsville, Alabama. Bill Cook is quick to give me. He gives me the still shots from their cameras. They've got cameras set up. In fact, I'd love to have him on the show because the information he provides in a heartbeat is fascinating. But in fact, he just sent me an email on the one that we saw here at about 7:30 Central Time tonight. It was at a speed of 75,000 miles per hour, moving from east to west. And it burned up 30 miles in the atmosphere above the town of New Johnsonville, Tennessee.
Wow.
To me, that's an amazing bit of science that you can gather that information in such a short amount of time.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, with pictures, and I've got drop cam video of this thing. Wow. A lot of people have security cameras that are always rolling, and I've actually got some video of this thing. So we're all going to put that on television tonight. But again, looking at
what's causing them, don't you?
Yeah. WeatherBrains is typically done Monday nights, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. You can watch us live at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. We know most of you listen in the audio podcast format, but we'd love to hear from you. The email address here, it's email@weatherbrains.com. All of our social media accounts are posted on the website as well. And since Brian is out, I'll be doing the show notes this week, which means there'll be a total disaster. But the whole gang will be back from AMS next week, back in the usual places. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, and God bless. All right, Kev, I'm the lead of the show tonight.
Because it's cold. You got cold. Yeah. You got cold air tips?
I hope they can let me do some cold tips. Go into a heated area. Don't walk outside in your underwear.
Right.
All right. Have fun, man. I got to go. Bye, everybody.